What is poppin'? I want to welcome you from half court for today, March 29th, 2023. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside one of my guys, Jeff Iafrady. Jeff came down from space and decided to join us on Earth today. Jeff, thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Well, I was humbled. No longer in space. The relationship with Elon is severed, so I'm here on Earth. But I'm happy to be here. Approaching the end of the season. Only, 2 home games left, I believe, for the Pistons.
Wow.
So we're getting to that stretch.
Did Father Elon say you had to pay $7 a month in order to stay up in space? Otherwise, it was going to be taken away with your blue check
I'm going to be
mark?
honest. It was getting a little too hefty for me, Sean. Me and Elon, we tried to talk numbers. It was a little out of my price range, if I'm being honest.
Oh, my gosh. Speaking of out of our price range, the most expensive man in all of the basketball podcast space. No, I'm totally kidding. Troy's literally the most chill guy on the planet. It is Troy Sergey. Hey, Troy, how's it going, man?
Going good, man. Got to see my favorite player in the league last night. Luka
Yeah, you saw
Doncic.
Kyrie Irving yet again, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, I saw Kyrie again. Kyrie had a good
Your
game.
favorite player, Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, not him. But he had a pretty good game, though. Kyrie had 16 and I think 5 assists. But
Wasn't that like your fourth time seeing Kyrie?
Yeah, something like that. But sat out most of the fourth quarter. And then Luka had a pretty quiet first half, but then just had a monster third quarter. And Mavs won by well over double digits. So.
Troy, you were in attendance for that pass, right?
Yes, I saw the pass. I didn't really I saw it was a crazy pass, but seeing the angles was even more crazy. That pass never should have happened. But when I was watching it live, it was like, oh, that was a nice pass. But then when I saw the highlights, it was an unreal pass.
Yeah,
Luka legend.
It's one of those things where every time you watch Luka, you're in awe. Even Troy, it's kind of amazing. You saw him coming off of perhaps his roughest stretch of basketball ever, and for him to be able to go out on a night to night basis and still put up performances like that. I mean, and Troy, and with this being in Indiana, how much did you pay for a ticket to go see Luka Doncic?
Little more this time. I think it was $21, but still pretty good.
More.
Go yourself. Anyway, that's insane, man.
I thought he said a little more. I thought you were gonna say something more expensive. When you said a little more, I was like, $21.
The typical. I just got tickets for Thunder and Pacers on Friday, and the cheapest ones were $6. So I paid a little hefty extra and went for 10.
You figure go for the leg room, pay $10.
Troy.
Oh my gosh, doesn't that just boggle your mind? I'm just gonna look up just for reference sake. I want to look up how much a ticket is for a regular season game for all right. So just for reference, this is for when this podcast comes out. The cheapest ticket to go to a New York Knicks game at the Madison Square Garden, the cheapest ticket is $187 each.
Jesus.
Troy had his most expensive ticket of the season at $21.
That's a robbery.
Now, always upper deck. Don't get me wrong.
Well, but Troy, that's also upper deck. That is the nosebleeds in the garden.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's
Go Pacers,
insane.
baby.
Go Pacers, baby. Hey, you'll take it 100%. That's one of the beauties of living in the Midwest. But guys, let's dive into it. This is From Half Court, where we talk about all things NBA basketball, all things Detroit Pistons, all things NBA draft. If you like that, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, join in the conversation in the comment section down below, because From Half Court does have a very vocal community. Also, be sure you follow all of us on social media so you're not missing any of the latest and greatest that is coming from the From Half Court crew. You can follow my guy Jeff at Jeff Iafrady. You can follow my boy Troy at Troy Sergey44. And if you're feeling oh so generous, you can also follow myself at Sean Half Court. But with that, guys, let's get right into it. As far as Detroit Pistons goes, I think we are officially in the time of year where there are no controversies to be had. So therefore, it is time to create controversies to be had. And the number one controversy on Pistons Twitter today is...
What is it, Sean? What is it?
James Wiseman starting down the stretch of these 6 games. Guys, I'm just going to tell you right, and I don't want to let my emotions dictate where or my response to dictate what your guys' opinion is. However, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say I don't give a who's starting down the stretch. Do you?
No.
Not with the record that the Pistons have right now.
and top of the, you need context. People like for James Wiseman, he's coming up on the end of his deal. Like you got to give him as much runway as possible, as opposed to Duren. He's under contract. I mean, he's young, but you come on, like that's. I thought that was kind of an obvious thing, Sean, but I guess not. Well, I guess people still have a problem with it.
Well, not only does he have less years remaining on his deal, not only is James Wiseman a newer player in the system, a guy that they brought in at the trade deadline. But let's remember, for all intents and purposes, James Wiseman has missed 2.5 years of basketball. Yep. He came in, he played 3 games in college, had the injury mishap, decided to leave college, went into the pros, played about a half a season, got injured. Then Steph showed he could still be Steph. And that completely changed how the Warriors decided they were going to do things. And now we're in this situation where James Wiseman is trying to catch up. It was reported right when the Pistons made the trade from Mark Spears that James Wiseman was going to be starting down the stretch. I don't think this is a decision based off of who's the better player, guys. I think this is solely off of a player development and an evaluation standpoint to see just what they have in James Wiseman. Because, guys, in my opinion, I think we've seen a lot of what Jalen Duren can be this season.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and a lot of that, too, not just Wiseman, but you have guys like R.J. Hampton or Eugene, guys that need runway. So I have no issue with it. The rotations, to me, and we talked a little bit about this in a previous pod, like, are you concerned about the rotations? Are you concerned about how things are going to be run? No. You want to see guys get as much runway as possible if they need it, and James Wiseman's a great example. He gets in the starting lineup. I didn't really flinch at it initially. I mean, we don't think we even talked about it that much because it was kind of a given. Like, we knew he'd start. We knew there was a lot more for him to show rather than Duren. It sounds crazy, but again, Wiseman, shorter term deal, a lot of unknowns about Wiseman. You wanted to give him as much runway, and to me that made the most sense, especially for a team that stinks and you want them to kind of continue to stink to have the best odds of the number 1 pick. This doesn't even move the needle for me, Sean.
Well, I mean, even then, guys, at this point, if you talk about like wanting to seal that, we are there. The Detroit Pistons have, at this point, they have clinched the best lottery odds. I understand, that essentially since the All-Star break, I believe we won 1 game is where we are currently at. So going down this stretch, I don't think this is a team that is trying to tank. I think with who they have in the roster available to them right now, I don't think they have to try that hard.
Right.
No,
right.
No, they don't.
And a guy like Wiseman, we talked about it, Sean. Sorry to interrupt, but we want this guy to develop. And the only way that you're going to do that in the NBA is giving touches and giving floor time. And I just think we've seen so much from Duren. Yes, he's young. Yes, he still needs that development as well. But for Wiseman to sit as much as he did and have as many G League rotation touches, I guess you could say, in Golden State, I think playing real NBA minutes against NBA teams, and a lot of teams are competing right now for play-in spots, especially or playoff spots, especially just the last couple of games the Pistons have had and seen as opponents. We need this type of basketball with James Wiseman, Sean.
Yeah, well, he needs it as well. And you went right where I was going to go, is the fact that the only way he's going to learn is if he gets these opportunities and these touches. And when you have a portion, when you come in and your season's already determined, you're already going to at the very least be in the bottom 3 odds and somehow get some of the best odds of Victor Wembanyama. That's already been decided, right? So what's the best use of that time? seeing what we have in house. And I think that's exactly what they've done, right? And I understand, like fans like wanting to see more touches with Jalen Duren, wanting to see him get more run and opportunity. And I would say he's the youngest player in the NBA. He's going to have, a ton of time to get run. I think part of it also has to do with the fact that he was injured, to come out of the All-Star break too. But then here's another factor to throw another wrench into it all, guys. Marvin Bagley came back from injury. Mm-hmm. What the hell do we have in him? And we're investing $12.5 million a year. So with that, the minutes in the front court got really sparse really quickly, and Isaiah Stewart isn't even in the rotation.
Right. And it goes to your point you said a couple of weeks ago, Sean. You said in these last 10 to 15 games, we're going to see which players are Detroit Pistons moving forward and what players are just casual good NBA players, right? And especially when you're talking about roster spots now and roster spots that are filling positions, these minutes matters for guys like a Marvin Bagley, a James Wiseman, even without an Isaiah Stewart in the lineup. So.
Yeah, and on top of that, too, I mean, we knew even before this season was with Cade. It was always about finding out who's going to be here, who's going to be a part of the future. That was kind of the big narrative we talked about going into the season. And now, even with Wiseman, you acquire Wiseman. Duren got hurt. Like, people don't understand that. He got hurt. Wiseman was playing extremely well. He did enough to keep his job. And what are you going to take him out of the starting lineup and throw Duren in just because it's Duren? Like, he's been playing well, but still, Wiseman hasn't done really anything to lose it. But on top of what we talked about, he deserves all the runway. But don't act like Wiseman's been putting up duds and he's still in the starting lineup. He struggled a little bit recently, but ever since he got to Detroit, Sean, it's been mostly productivity. So I don't have an issue with him starting. I think he deserves it. And Dwayne even mentioned it. Like, he's been playing his ass off. Like, he deserves to be in the starting lineup. And even moving forward for the rest of the season, give him all the runway. Allow him to make mistakes. Allow him to learn, because if he's going to be a part of your rotation next year, you got to know what you have in James Wiseman. Like, Duren will be here for the next couple years, if not longer. So a lot shorter of a runway for us with Wiseman. So you got to give him as much of an opportunity as possible.
Right. And here's the reality check that people aren't going to love to hear, but is the reason why we're here, right? The reality is, as much as we believe in prospects and have certain attachments and have investments personally and emotionally in players' arcs, like the one that the Pistons community immediately felt with Jalen Duren. I would say from summer league on, Jalen Duren has been a fan favorite, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That doesn't mean that they aren't going to do their due diligence to figure out who's going to be the franchise center going forward. Because if they get a chance at getting Victor Wembanyama this offseason, you're damn right they're going to take it. Right? And the reality of it is, as much as they believe in every single guy that's in that room right now, the guys that are going to make it are the guys that are the best players, regardless of how the fans feel about them. That's just the truth.
And it's a good problem to have, quite frankly, as well.
Competition.
Yes.
Competition breeds development, breeds growth, gets excellence out of each other, especially when it's cultivated right.
And we got to stay consistent too. Like, we can't praise Troy for not, living or dying by his mistake. And I don't want to call it too much. It was a mistake at 7 for Killian if he doesn't pan out. But still, the fact that he drafted back-to-back guards, more competition, we praised him for that. But then people are going to give him criticism for getting Wiseman or playing Wiseman, or not Troy, but Dwayne playing Wiseman. It's like the whole point of competition is something that we've been, kind of advocating for, and we've been giving, praise for. So for me, this whole thing with Bagley coming back, I know Stewart's been out, but still with Duren, Wiseman, and Bagley, although the fit's been awkward, to me, the fit doesn't even matter at this point. Just get those guys out and let them play. And whoever can't fit, who can't play, you'll make that decision at a later date. So the quicker you're getting answers about James Wiseman, the better. And so far, it's been all positive.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the one thing that's been really consistent with James Wiseman is the effort, the intensity, the things that he brings on a night-to-night basis. And so, listen, I still think that, I've still been really impressed with what I've seen from Jalen Duren. I still think both of their ceilings are very high. I'm interested to see what a summer in the system and a training camp will do for James Wiseman and for Jalen Duren alike. I'm just interested to see, what these guys will look like going into next season,
With Cade.
Yeah.
With Cade.
But also the potential lottery selection, the potential free agency additions. Like, this team is going to look significantly different. And so, we talk about, the games that are going to be coming up. I believe, as of when we're recording, the Pistons have about 6 games remaining. And it is officially, the point of the year where these games do not, they have 7 more games. My apologies. They mean nothing at this point, other than for these guys to go out and finish strong. And listen, you could certainly try telling Jaden Ivey these games mean nothing. He's going out and playing his ass off, specifically having a career high against the Milwaukee Bucks the other night. Guys, Jaden Ivey in his sophomore year, I think, could take a real jump, especially with Cade coming into the lineup. How excited are you guys about our backcourt we have going forward, watching performances like that?
Very, very. And trust in Troy, right? But I guess, you can't really mess up.
Way to be egotistical there, Troy.
What'd you say?
Way to be egotistical there, Troy.
Right. I was going to say, you can't really mess up maybe a top 5 pick, but then again, we do see GMs do that. But I think being smart about drafting talent over positions, we preach that on the podcast, but you can really see it pan out, even with guys like Ivy, right? I mean, we're seeing production on the offensive end. And yes, we know Cade isn't there, but we can see fruits of Ivy being a potential all-star one day, right? I mean, we're seeing this score first guard who is able to get the job done, a score around the paint, facilitate the ball, excellent level. He's playing better than a rookie, in my opinion. And I just can't wait for year 2.
Yeah, I mean, he has gotten over the rookie wall and is a genuinely good NBA player.
Right, right.
And another thing, too, with Ivy, I mean, we know he's athletic. That was a known coming in. But one thing that impresses me, and now you're starting to see why people mention Ja Morant so much, is because as athletic as Ja Morant is, he never really needed a mid-range jumper. He has the floater he can take in the lane, and obviously he's stepped out. He's improved his three-point shooting. But Ja is kind of putting together a complete package, and that's when you saw Ja take those leaps. For Jaden Ivey, one thing I asked at least was a mid-range shot. Because if you're going to have guys backpedaling with his athleticism, they're going to give you space. You're going to have an opportunity for a floater or a mid-range shot. And watching Ivy over the last, 2 months, you've seen him implement a mid-range shot. You've seen him get to the line more often, which Ja Morant, you'll see Ja on any given night. He'll have 35 points, but he'll have 15 free throws makes. So that's a big thing, too, with Ivy's game, that he didn't really have a chance. He's a rookie at the end of the day, too, so he's not going to get the respect anyway. But you wanted him to take that next step. Boom. Last night against the Bucks, 32 points. He had 11 of 12 from the free throw line, which, again, love the percentages. But the more consistent Jaden Ivey gets to get to the free throw line, those averages are going to go up. It's the same argument we made for Cade. He had a great rookie year. He barely got to the line. If he got to the line, if the refs gave him the calls we watched and knew he deserved, he'd be a 20-point scorer his rookie year. So for Ivy to take that next jump, for him to get to the free throw line more consistently and make more consistent free throws, shoot 75, 80%, he's going to be a dangerous player, especially if he has a mid-range or a floater like Ja Morant. He's easily going to be a 20-point scorer. Easily.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. And, you see, him and Cade talking on the sidelines. You hear about how Jaden Ivey talks about how essential, he's been, how frequently they're in communication, how lock and step they seem to be. It just excites you about the potential of what they can do on the court next season. And a player that a lot of people are wondering will be joining them next season is a guy that we added towards the end of this year, a guy that we made jokes about not even being able to pronounce his name. But now, guys, we know Eugene Omoruyi's name. In fact, we saw that Eugene Omoruyi was signed to a 2-year contract extension with a team option on next season. Essentially, from what I can tell, locking in Eugene Omoruyi at the very least through training camp for right now. Mm-hmm. What have your guys' thoughts been on his play? What are your guys' thoughts on the possibility of him being on the roster next season? And what do you expect? What are your realistic expectations?
Well, I'll start with the expectations. For me, not much, if I'm being real, especially with free agency and the players they're going to add. But if we could just talk about Eugene and give him...
Boo.
Give him.
Boo.
I will. See, the fun answer would be Eugene will be the third option next year for the Detroit Pistons. But
Eugene, the next Giannis?
Yeah, but for Eugene, the most impressive thing and something that we kind of talked about a little bit about when he was first acquired or he signed to that 10-day contract is the hustle. Like, that's one thing. It's funny when you have a situation like the Pistons where they're losing so many games and you bring in somebody that has no bias or just comes in and is just grinding for an NBA job. You see his hustle. You see his love for the game. And again, his versatility, what he can bring. He's not the greatest shooter, but just everything else he brings, the heart, the hustle, it speaks of volumes. He's playing in Detroit, so we welcome anybody that's going to play like Eugene. But for him to get that 2-year deal to get some security, I know the second year as a team option, I'm happy for him. I mean, he deserves it. We kind of saw this coming. I know he signed a second 10-day option or 10-day contract, and it's like, hey, just sign the guy to an extension. He's earned it. Now, what are the expectations for him moving forward? Not much, but just to have a guy like this on your roster that you can trust and you know he's going to give you 120%, it's a great problem to have. It's awesome. Shout out to Eugene.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Troy, what about you?
Yeah, and I thought the work ethic, right, is a big thing I see, and just his ability to play all around, team-oriented basketball where he's going to give that 110% effort, I think is really, really important. And you want that down the stretch in these types of seasons, right? And these types of games, these kind of meaningless games, you still want to play competitive basketball that helps your other guys develop around us. Because I think when you're playing, good basketball, guys like a James Wiseman, a Jalen Duren can even develop just by having guys on the floor that are competing, maybe different positions, but still competing to the 110%. And then moving forward, yeah, I'm kind of with Jeff there. I just don't really see a huge opportunity for him to have a major role on the team. But again, if he is your 15th, 14th roster spot on this team, why not sign him for the year? So,
and his energy's contagious too.
Yeah,
like that stuff. When you watch him play, it transfers to the rest of the team, and that's why another thing you look at Eugene, man. Like if you're playing alongside him, and he's got a 10-day contract, and he's leaving it all out there, like that's got to give you some sort of inspiration.
I mean,
like
Coach Casey said he was coming for jobs, man. He was coming to take someone's job, which that is a legitimate thing. And Eugene Omoruyi has been playing with consistent effort, consistent energy on both sides of the court, makes the right basketball decision at just about every turn. He's a breath of fresh air, especially, something that we've been missing in that wing room, which is just, that level of consistency on a night-to-night basis. Now, having said all that, will he be on the roster next season? I have no idea. I would assume he will be on the Summer League roster. I would assume that he will be on the training camp roster. But let's remember, guys, what's the position that the Detroit Pistons are most likely going to try to address this offseason?
Wing.
The wing.
Where can they go get a wing this offseason?
In the draft.
Where else?
And the free agency.
And free agency.
Yeah. The truth is, there are high-quality names on the table this offseason. I know people are like, what's this free agency class? Well, to answer your question, getting a guy like a Jeremy Grant type or a Cam Johnson type back in the building wouldn't be a bad thing to have, right?
No.
So I just think that you look at the amount of wing depth that's coming into this draft, but also beyond in the free agency market and everything. I just would say, I would caution just saying Eugene must have a spot on the team next year, because the reality is this team needs to get better next year, right? And we want to have depth at more positions. I want to be in a position where we're bringing Bojan off the bench next season, right?
Right. That would be pretty cool. That would really show the depth of this roster if Bojan comes off the bench. Yeah,
exactly. Now, having said all that, could Eugene Omoruyi possibly earn a two-way spot? Could he possibly earn that 14th or 15th spot, like you guys said? Perhaps. And you know what? Like, he could possibly be one of the better 13th, 14th guys in the league, just because he seems like a guy, at least from when he's been in Detroit, he's been ready every time he's been called upon.
And that's the biggest surprising thing, because he only played 39 career games in the NBA. Like, think about that.
Yeah.
39 career games. So we talk about James Wiseman and guys getting runway. Here's a perfect example of a guy who really has never had an opportunity. He's only started in 5 career games, and he's even averaging 14 minutes in his career. So for Eugene to get this type of runway, to really know, I mean, he didn't get the opportunity in OKC. He didn't get the opportunity with Dallas. So to have it with the Pistons, he's only 26 years old. So I don't want to write him off, but to be completely realistic, after you get free agent, he's going to have a hard road. He's going to have a hard road to earn a rotation.
He's got a really
I was
good.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say really quickly. He's got a really good floor, not a high ceiling. That's all I was gonna say. Go ahead, Troy.
Right. Yeah. No, I was gonna say mathematically, a lot of guys that you call up in this type of scenario don't make a massive effort, don't make a massive, splash on your roster. It's just how this league goes with this much talent, especially in our G League system. But to have a guy like that to come in, that's what makes making heads turn and making GMs say, oh, shoot, maybe I can have this guy on my roster. I was just trying to have him fill roster spot for this rest of this, worthless season. But again, mathematically, you just don't see this very often,
right?
With guys really, really showing off their talent in this type of scenario. So
now I will say this, guys, I really hope he's on the Summer League roster, because this is a guy to me that screams like potential Summer League breakout candidate. Like, this is a guy who could come out and like turn some heads and go, Eugene Omoruyi. Like, I could already picture those calls from Mark Davis and Lisa Salters on the sidelines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm super happy for him. It just shows, the amount of, how hard it is even just to get, on a roster in this league, how much effort it shows, but overcoming the odds, like you said, Troy. So many guys sign 10-day contracts. Those don't come around all the time. So the fact that he got converted into a spot the rest of this season, I mean, props to him, but also props to Troy Weaver for finding another guy, in the roughs for all intents and purposes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait. You giving Troy credit?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Don't do that, Sean. You don't have to do that.
We're not allowed to do that. That's right. My apologies.
People assume I've seen some fire Troy comments, but it is what it is.
Which the lunacy of that.
I know it's
the way,
complete lunacy.
It's astonishing to me. It really is. But guys, another thing that was astonishing to me was a report that I saw today from Brian Windhorst, where he brought up specifically how Stephen Silas, the head coach of the Houston Rockets, at one point this season was so upset and so distraught by the fact that he can't possibly connect to this team and just how difficult it is to communicate and convey with them, that he was breaking down into tears. And listen, Stephen Silas has gone through a lot publicly and privately over the last couple of years. He lost his father, a few months ago. My heart just breaks for him as a person. So like my number one thing, we all know more than likely what's happening to Stephen Silas over the course of the couple weeks. There's already reports of Ime Udoka possibly being of interest to the Rockets. The writing is on the wall for Stephen Silas. But guys, the reason why why I get frustrated and why I get angry when I read stories like these is because the writing was on the wall for Stephen Silas before he even stepped on the court to coach his first game. Because when Stephen Silas was hired to be the head coach of the Houston Rockets, he thought he was coaching James Harden and Russell Westbrook. He thought he was taking on that team. And then he had the John Wall, Christian Wood, DeMarcus Cousins Rockets. How'd that go? Not great. I'm just gonna.
Don't even need to answer that one.
We don't got to suspend the disbelief.
Yeah, that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, 100%. But guys, if you look at the track record since Tillman Fertitta has taken over as the principal owner of the Houston Rockets, it has been a dumpster fire. And that includes when James Harden and freaking Sam Presti, no, it's not Sam Presti. Who's the former GM of the Rockets that's now with the Philadelphia 76ers?
Can't remember off the top of my head.
All right.
Yeah, same.
All right, I'll look it up. Anyway, guys, when you saw that report, what was your reaction?
Honestly, my heart does go out to Steven because, number one, he's the son of Paul Silas, which is, if you know him as a player or as a coach, like, you got a lot to live up to anyway. But for Steven to lose his father in the same season that the Houston Rockets, they quite frankly stink. And it's not just stink. Like,
Daryl Morey.
Daryl Morey. Okay, well, yeah, Daryl Morey. Oh, gosh. We'll get into him in a second. But there's differences with stinking like the Pistons where you stink, but there's still promise. There's still a culture being developed. There's still a lot of things you like in what you're building. And then there's stink with really no direction. And I feel like the Rockets, you might like some of their players, but we've all hated the fit since day one, even with Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. So for Steven to be in that situation, listen, the NBA it's not fair for anybody. So I can't say it's not fair for Steven because there's only 30 jobs. So to be a head coach in this league, you got to eat dirt sometimes. And for Steven, this is a big lesson for him, being an assistant in the league for as long as he has and now being a head coach. It's a wake-up call. This is why some coaches, if you're in a good position, you don't take certain jobs. Like, if you have leverage, because you're like, ugh. Like, I'm essentially signing up for something. And like you said, Steven thought he was signing up for James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Mm-hmm. Now look at what he has now. It's essentially a rebuild with not a lot of promise going forward. So right. My heart goes out to him. I feel for him, but at the same time, this is a business. And if you can't get it done, they're going to find somebody who they think can get it done. Right. So it kind of goes both ways.
Right. And I would argue you see this more in the NFL, nowadays, I would say, than you see it in the NBA. But it's just like, how frustrating is it? Like when you see a coach where, where a guy like Stephen Silas, he was a head assistant in the NBA for years, one of the most respected assistant coaches, in the NBA circle. Yet for whatever reason, this was the only job that he could get. And it was a job that across the league after Mark D'Antoni left, like people forget, that was like a don't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole job. But Stephen Silas, that was the one opportunity he had. Like you said, Jeff, on the flip side, there's only one of 30 jobs in the league. And so even when you're set up to fail, you still have to take your opportunity. And that's the part that really sucks. And it's like with Daryl Morey, like, listen, like, I don't, it's like like a lot of those, like, I would argue that, I don't think you can blame, those guys, obviously, like they're not in the building, but like, a lot of the, the Rockets obviously, blew everything up and didn't really have much of a plan. And Stephen Silas was asked to pivot. And this is the difference. And this is why I preach the importance of having a coach like Dwayne Casey in the building, because he's been in a ton of different experiences, but he's been in the head coaching seat before, both in winning situations and in losing situations. And one thing that I am confident about with Dwayne Casey this season, I don't think he ever broke down crying because he didn't feel like he had control of his team this year. I can guarantee you that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the reason is because he knows what to do in that situation. He's
been
there before.
A lot of it's personnel too. Like Troy's done a good job of getting players that are coachable, right? Like that matters too. It goes both ways. So for the Rockets to have, Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr., I keep going back to those guys. Listen, I don't know them personally, but if you look at Cade, coachable. Ivy, coachable. As a mother who's a coach. You look at even guys like, formerly Sadiq Bey, coachable. Now he's on the Hawks, but Wiseman, coachable. These guys that he's been able to collect and put together, very coachable guys. I don't know what's going on in Houston. I mean, you had Aaron Gordon earlier this year. We kind of made fun of the comment he had where it's like, hey.
He was like, there's no improvement.
No improvement. And again, yes, coaching matters with that aspect, but it's on the players. Like, you got to hold players accountable as well. So, again, if you want to talk about Dwayne with the Pistons, that's fine. But at the end of the day, there's times where people are bringing up Dwayne just to bring up Dwayne when we're bringing up, you look at the players. Accountability matters, and I don't think there's any in Houston. Even, like, it's sad because you can look at Houston and say, that place is a disaster. But Stephen Silas could be out there coaching his ass off, trying to get these guys, trying to get everything out of them, but simply they're just not responding to it. It's unfortunate.
Well, and picture being in his shoes as well, Troy. When you're working your ass off, going in each and every night, coaching this team that you are not realistically going to be able to win games with. And then you have your owner all over social media, absolute based, saying, pray for Victor. How does that sit?
Not the greatest, Sean. But man, it shows you night and day with the culture that Troy Weaver, that Dwayne Casey is building on this roster. When you guys buy into Dwayne Casey's system, and sure, we've talked so much about Dwayne Casey already. We're not going to go that path, but I'm just saying the Rockets have a better record than us. But if you were to just judge a team by its record of what coach, what franchise would you want to move moving forward, something tells me that most NBA fans would say the Pistons. It's just a theory.
Well, this is just what we've been talking about all along, right? Of the context of the situations, the context behind the record. Like, what's behind it? With Detroit, you could go, oh, multiple key players were injured. In Charlotte, oh, multiple key players were injured, and one of their players had a major criminal thing before the season. Oh, and their franchise has been terrible forever. But then you go to Houston, and it's like, it's only described as a circus. It's like it's almost not even news, because the fact that everyone knows that the Rockets are a circus. And that's the difference. Like, that really is. And like, I just think the Stephen Silas report really let it shine through. Right.
Yeah.
Now, and I've kind of turned the tide to it, Stephen. Like, early in the season, I've roasted Stephen a couple times, but the majority, what I'm learning now in my mindset now is kind of looking at it like, Stephen's probably going to be the one that falls on the sword. But let's be honest here. Like, even if you get Ime Udoka, and again, that's a significant upgrade. We know what Ime Udoka is. At the end of the day, it still matters who you have on your roster. So, like, the players are still going to be there. It's still going to be Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr. Like, so you can blame Stephen Silas all you want, and he's going to fall on the sword. But quite frankly, I don't think it's all him.
Listen, I'm just going to come straight out and say it. I think in developing situations, I think you need coaches that are really good at developing. But otherwise, if you're talking about like on a night-to-night basis, like, does a head coach make a massive difference on winning games each and every night? I don't think a head coach really makes a difference until you're getting to the little minutia of NBA playoff basketball. Doc Rivers in the Philadelphia 76ers versus Mike Budenholzer in the Milwaukee Bucks. When it's a downright chess match, your rosters are just about matched at every single position. How is the coach going to put them in a position to succeed, make the adjustments over the course of a series? That, in my opinion, is where an NBA coach makes their mark. Right. I think we as a collective of NBA fans put way too much emphasis on what an NBA coach actually does. Am I crazy for that?
No, honestly, I think coaching matters the most situationally. I think that's when it matters. 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, or like you said, in the playoffs, postseason. This is a league where you have one or two superstars, you should be able to win games. Now, if you have a young team, it's a little different. So coaching matters, obviously. But to your point, Sean, I agree with you 100%.
Troy, am I crazy?
You're not crazy, Sean. I think it's more than X's and O's, okay? And I think some people, when maybe casuals or just casually in the sporting world, will think your coach is only responsible for the X and O's, the plays, whatever. But no, the coach drives the culture of the system and the culture of the team. And I think when you have the right coach, okay, your culture falls in together, right? Your stars can be stars, your role players can be role players, and you can function as one unit together. That's what a true team is all about. So yes, I mean, the head coaching in this league matters, and we've seen great teams with the wrong coach not succeed over the years, and you've seen some great coaches take contenders into champions as well.
Right. To me, this is just a situation where I highlight all of this, and I say all of this to really wrap the bow of, I personally think if you put Stephen Silas in almost any other coaching room, you give him the keys. If you gave Steven Silas the keys to the 2017 Golden State Warriors, do any of you think they're not winning the championship?
I think they'll start winning that thing.
Like, do you think Steven Silas really doesn't know basketball? Like,
Rockets fans would probably say no, but yes, he does.
Like that's really all I'm saying. And then listen, yeah, Rockets fans can go, oh, well, he did this, he did that, he did this. Your roster has been hot dog water ever since he stepped in the building. Listen, that's a whole other rabbit hole that we could continue to go down. I'm way more interested in this. Troy, you saw Luka Doncic last night as of recording, but also more importantly, you saw the Dallas Mavericks, which is, and I mean this literally, the biggest dumpster fire in the NBA right now. I know we just talked about the circus that's in Houston and everything that's going on there, but this is bad, y'all. You guys remember my trepidation with the Kyrie Irving trade, right? What was my concern when that trade went down?
Well, they lost all their best defenders. So it was, how is this team going to respond now with two guards who can't defend?
And that Kyrie Irving's the type of player who basketball is not his number one priority, and he's going to bring attention into the locker room that may not be welcomed.
And what's happened?
Both.
Like literally. I don't understand. It's like a clockwork. It's like NBA Twitter, like we all collectively, like when the trade happened, it's like, oh man, this is gonna be a problem. Like we immediately saw it in the eyes of like a 2K player.
Yeah.
But guys, over the weekend, did you see the press conference Luka Doncic had, where they were asking him about what the problems are, and he was like, I don't know, man. I have never seen a player look that defeated at 23 years old in my entire life. And now we're realistically in a situation where a team that a year ago made it to the Western Conference Finals, solely off of Luka's greatness alone, is now in position to miss the play-in. They're currently behind the Oklahoma City Thunder.
They have higher odds of landing victor than the NBA Finals.
I mean, guys.
Yeah, it's bad.
And you talk about...
And by the way, that's with Kyrie almost having a 50-40-90 season. Go ahead.
And to make it all worse, this team lost 2 times in a row to the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah. That to me, I mean, it was a lot of buildup to get to this, but that to me was the final straw with this team this season, was you lose back-to-back games against the Hornets.
And guys, not just any Hornets team, a Hornets team that didn't have LaMelo, a Hornets team that didn't have Terry Rozier, a Hornets team that didn't even have Kelly Oubre Jr. Luka Doncic dropped 40 in one of those games and 34 in the other. And they straight up got outplayed both nights. I mean, this is where, in my opinion, you can actually point to coaching, because this is a team that was at a level at one point. Obviously, I think some GM work. I also think they made some terrible decisions in the front office. But guys, can we just admit Jason Kidd's a terrible coach now? Like, are we there?
I would say he's mid. I would say Jason Kidd, he's a mid coach.
You'd even give him mid?
Yeah. Because I can't say he's awful, but he's mid. Like even last year, he's mid. He's all right. And again, you talk about we just talked about how much coaching really doesn't matter in most situations. This roster construction isn't the best either. Like,
right.
where like, speaking of the Hornets games, both games, the Hornets shot 40% from 3. Like, where's the defense? Like, so again, it's Jason Kidd. Yeah, he's mid, but also the roster.
Kidd,
Nico Harrison
defensive
is mid
coach.
as well.
That was the one thing he was supposed to bring to the table, was improved defensive play on this team.
Yeah. You could bring a donkey to the water. You can't make it drink it. All right. So
you can lead
I
a
don't know.
horse
I
to
don't know what's
water.
going on.
Yeah, getting a drink is a whole other thing. Yeah, and I mean, Troy, you just saw him in person the other night.
Yeah.
How, just size wise, like on TV, they look small in comparison to other teams.
Do. Yeah.
In person.
Yeah.
Is it as bad as it seems?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't utilize Christian Wood much at all, but they didn't have Maxi Kleba available either. So yeah, they definitely went small last night, I thought for sure. But to your point, Sean, I'm kind of going to have to go with Jeff here. I'm not going to label Jason Kidd a terrible coach just because yes, we know Luka's performance last year got him to the Western Conference Finals, but I just can't say that you can be a bottom 25 coach in the league and still with talent, with one player, take your team to the Western Conference Finals. I think he developed a good roster last year.
I think it is also pretty clear that Jalen Brunson meant a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Too. That doesn't discredit any of that. I would not label him a bottom tier necessarily.
I wasn't saying he was bottom tier. I'm just saying, at the very least, he's doing a bad job right now.
He's not upper tier. I'll give you that. He's not upper tier.
I mean, at the very least, this team should be ramping up.
Oh, yeah.
Should be, especially in these situations, should be able to outscore teams, not a problem. And you would, at the very least, think for a guy in Jason Kidd's ilk, this is a point where you can actually point to coaching and go, why do we have an offense that is only heavy isolation with Kyrie and Luka, which, yes, they're both extremely talented in isolation, but don't you think you could do a little bit more variety with two of the best ball handlers in the history of basketball?
Yeah, he's definitely, I mean, we can all admit he's struggling with this fit, trying to figure these guys out. I mean, weren't the Mavericks before the Kyrie trade at one point a top 5 team?
For actually a good chunk of the season.
And then now with Kyrie and the departure of Finney Smith, and now you see them kind of just sliding down. So
this team's struggling. Roster should be a 4th seed, in my opinion, but they're at 11th.
I mean, I think
with Kyrie and Luka, I agree. Yeah.
At the very least, they should be a play-in team.
Yeah, with those two, absolutely.
I mean, you talk about everything that this means. We can agree to disagree on Jason Kidd. What we can definitely say is Christian Wood definitely seems like that's like a they must get him out of there, after this season type of thing. And I don't think Jason Kidd necessarily helped there. But what I would say as well, what does this mean for Kyrie Irving beyond this season? Because it's not like he's even playing bad basketball. He is being a little bit annoying on social media, but he's not even being as much of a distraction. He's just not moving the needle for them at all.
But teams got to look at that too and be like, ugh. For Kyrie this offseason, I think it'll be a minimal market. I do. I think there'll be a couple teams interested, depending on what the Lakers do.
Especially
I think that's the big domino.
If he wants a long-term maximum extension.
Exactly. And if the Lakers, if they want to re-sign D'Lo and keep Malik Beasley, kind of get some of these guys reworked, then yeah, the Kyrie's out of the picture. But if they want to try and pursue Kyrie, I think the Lakers are a viable destination. Mavericks are clearly going to want him back. But other than that, I mean, you're pulling at hairs now with teams that are going to be interested in Kyrie Irving because you don't think any team's been paying attention to what he did in Brooklyn. Not saying it was all his fault, but just the drama in what happened the last couple of years, and now with the Mavericks and the drastic downfall of the Mavericks. Not saying it's Kyrie's fault. But come on. You don't think teams are at least looking at that oh, okay, we got to at least consider this. Even though he's having a great season. So I think he'll have a market. I just don't think it'll be like most. If you're Kyrie Irving, if you're a 50, 40, 90 guy, every single team in the league should be calling your phone, asking you to play for them. I don't think it'll be the case for Kyrie Irving.
There is the one interesting component, though, in the sense that, do the Mavericks obviously want him back? At this point, with how it's gone, with how Luka's feeling about it all, are they almost better off just getting the free cap space? That's the weird thing, because when you talk about what their road is going forward, they gave up a first-round pick to put themselves in this mess.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like you talk about, like, I think like the free agent market is going to be solid for teams like Detroit or, like other teams that are trying to find complementary ancillary pieces. Dallas needs to find the core figurehead that's going to be with Luka going forward if they want any form of success. What player is like where's that player in this free agency market?
It's funny. If they never got Kyrie, it probably would be Kyrie if you think about it.
I mean,
but now they know what Kyrie looks like, so it might not be Kyrie. But believe it or not, say what you want about Kyrie and his love for the game, the free agents available, he's one of the best free agents available.
Well, if you're looking strictly in a bubble, Jeff, if you're looking solely on paper of what you're getting as a basketball player,
yes,
you are correct.
Yeah.
However, who is signing up for that right now?
Not too many teams, barely any teams. Barely.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely unreal. Another thing I wanted to bring up really quickly, I thought was really interesting. I wanted to get your guys' takes on this. So, I'm not sure if you guys remembered, but a couple of years ago, in the 2021 NCAA tournament, it was actually held in the bubble. It was actually like in March of 2021. This is still in a point where we're kind of still recovering because it was really the summer of that year where things went back to normal, right? And in that bubble, there was I'm not sure if you guys remember, but there was a really big controversy about the facilities that the men's tournament had and the facilities that the women's tournament had. And I thought it was really interesting because not even 3 years after that debacle and that controversy, the NCAA Women's Final Four is now a hotter ticket than the men's Final Four. This is per PointsBet USA. As of today, the lowest ticket price for the men's Final Four on Ticketmaster, $75.
Wow.
The lowest ticket price for a women's Final Four ticket, $284. Caitlin Clark, first of all.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, there you go.
Yeah.
But second of all, guys, I think this is a ultimate lesson that basketball is good basketball regardless of gender, race, creed, sexual orientation. That good basketball sells regardless of gender. And if you put the money and invest behind these stars and showcase them, people will go to what is better. And right now, the women's tournament's just straight up and better.
Well, it's better program. More known programs. I got to watch what I say here. LSU, you have Iowa, you have Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, like two ballers that are going to play in the WNBA if they so choose. That's why the tickets are more. Like, we had this discussion, Sean, when we made the video. The star power in the NCAA men's tournament, especially with all the upsets, typically you see a lot of those. It's just different. Like, I even find myself, I've tuned into more women's NCAA basketball than I have men's this season. Like, because it's on TV and it's better television. Caitlin Clark and Haley going at it, mouthing each other. Like, that stuff to me is better TV than I'm sorry, watching, UConn or San Diego State. It's just, it is what it is.
Well,
and I think fundamentals too. Go ahead, Sean.
No, you go ahead, Troy.
Okay, I was gonna say fundamentals are a lot better normally with women too. Fundamental basketball, but also the competitiveness, like Jeff's mentioned. I just now there's been some good competitive men's games in the March Madness tournaments,
of course.
But the women's competitiveness was a little bit different. I thought that this year, and I don't know what years I would have said that besides this one. So yeah, I mean it's just naturally something that the country is more attractive to at this stage, which is fine, which is great.
Well, I think power to them.
Yeah,
power to them.
Absolutely. I think this just speaks to, I think for so long there's just been this stance of women's basketball will never be on the level of men's because men are just better. They're more athletic. And it's like, there are some remarkable basketball players that are women. I mean, Candace Parker, the career that she's had, I'm in awe of. The Las Vegas Aces run from this last year was freaking incredible. Sabrina Ionescu is one of my, like favorite rising star basketball players. Like I personally am like more interested in the WNBA than I have been before. And that's because women's basketball, guys, is growing quickly. And I think like the star power we're going to see in the next 5 years, like I just want to see that league get the support and representation it deserves, because clearly it shows that if you put these people on the pedestal, give them the time, they're stars there too.
Could you imagine a world, Sean, where in the summertime, instead of baseball dominating literally everything, you have a MLB WNBA rivalry? Wouldn't that be so fun to have the WNBA be where majority of sports fans are tuning into, besides, April, May, June baseball?
Yeah, especially real quick too, especially when you have players like Caitlin Clark, when you're watching them in these type of environments in the NCAA women's tournament, and you get to see them go into the WNBA, and you become fans of these girls. Like even Caitlin Clark, or like I said, Angel Reese, these girls that are performing at a high level and they go to the WNBA, like you find yourself just following these people. So again, it all ties together. So it's a great point. MLB fans won't be happy you said that, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest thing of it all is that women's basketball isn't a laughing matter. It's no joke. It's legit hoops.
No, they're for real. Yeah.
And like I even think back to like my favorite show of all time is The Office. There's a joke in like season 6 where where like Dwight's like, I like men's basketball. I like the WNBA. I like sports. I like jokes. Like there's people like have always made that joke about women's basketball. But the reality is, man, and Troy, you alluded to earlier, like there's some women that can do circles around men with the fundamentals and the skills and the things that they know on the basketball court. It's unreal. So
by the way, what Caitlin Clark did against Louisville?
A 40-point triple-double?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you tune in? Why wouldn't you?
That, like, take away, like, female, male, just watching that performance and what she's been doing from she shot 8 for 14 from 3. Like, that's as you're a basketball fan, you're tuning in.
Yep, exactly. Which, again, just speaks to the fact that good basketball is good basketball, regardless. And just when I saw that just put a big smile on my face, because I remember how angry I was when all that stuff came out, and the disparagement and that, and just not even 5 years later to see that, just insanely cool. But Troy, there's no other way to end this podcast than to head over to Mount Rushmore with my boy. So with that, Troy, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, got a fun one today. Definitely not a serious one, but one that we can have some fun with. We know the NBA is a business. We know it's not always about basketball. Got to be some profit. Yeah, I know, right? Isn't that crazy? We are going to do the Mount Rushmore of best NBA-related commercials.
Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you what's not on there. Jalen Green's new freaking liquid death commercial. Troy, did you see this?
I didn't.
Oh, it's so bad. I'm sending it to you to watch after this. It's one we might have to do a video reacting to it at some point because it's so bizarre. But anyway.
No, it's not gonna. No, this doesn't necessarily have to be a commercial for the NBA. This can be a commercial for State Farm or Taco Bell, but with NBA players in it or coaches or whatever. So, Sean, you want to start?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna let me start, I'm gonna go with the best basketball commercial of all time. Magic Larry Bird playing horse over a Big Mac. I mean, it is one of, I mean, like, first of all, I mean, their rivalry and everything that brings and the history behind that, how clever of a commercial that was, how funny it is to go back and watch. It's a timeless commercial. And, even just, like even the remake that they did.
The Dwight Howard and LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wasn't it, though, Michael Jordan and Larry Bird?
Was it MJ and Larry?
Yes, it was.
Pretty sure
it was Michael.
It was, yeah.
Son of a gun.
No, I mean, Magic Larry are rivals. That's an easy mix-up.
But regardless, the commercial's legendary. Yeah, regardless.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of Michael Jordan, can I bring up the Gatorade commercial? The older Michael and the younger Michael, like the dynamic there. I feel like, and again, most of these greatest commercials have Michael in them because of the historic value there. But that's the other one I had to bring up because that still sticks in my craw. The young Mike talking to the older Mike.
Yeah, I like that one too. I'm gonna have to go with the Christmas commercial maybe 10 years ago, 2012 or 2013, with Jingle Bells being played to 3-point shots.
Yes,
with Jingle Bells in the nets.
Yep,
that's pretty cool. That one was pretty cool.
That was with there was James Harden, LeBron, Kevin Durant.
I think honestly, that's a great one.
I think
that's
Jeremy Lin was in that commercial.
Yeah.
Jay Lin, wow.
I think Steve Nash too.
Yeah.
That brings back like so many memories when you said that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
man.
And then LeBron catching the alley-oop at the end.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. That's the one.
Oh gosh, so good. Absolutely so good.
And listen, if we go off topic too, Chris Paul and State Farm commercials.
Oh right.
Let's just be real.
Chris I love the one where he's like, I didn't know you played for the Bucks, and he's like, I did, and it's like the deer wrecking his car in the garage. It's pretty funny.
So cheesy, man. It's so cheesy.
What if I want to change sports and then walking? Yeah, that's a funny one too. But
they got the perfect guy for that. Cheesy Chris Paul.
Yeah. I like remember the NBA where amazing happens. Remember that little line back from like 2008, 2009.
Oh yeah.
Maybe before your time, Jeff.
Well, I mean, what was I like? I was 9 at the time.
Yeah.
So I probably
he's like 2 years younger than us, Troy. Maybe before your time. He's like a year and a half younger than you. Like what? Like what?
I just got sunned by Troy. What happened?
I just can't believe I mixed up Magic. I mean, Magic and MJ. I mean, it makes sense, right?
It would.
Yeah.
I mean, now I think Magic and Larry did a sneakers commercial from the 80s where it was like,
Converse.
Yeah, Converse. Yeah, it was like, I'm gonna wear the sneakers of this year's past MVP, and then Larry comes in. Well, I'm gonna be. Magic. I'm gonna be wearing the sneakers of next year's MVP. Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
That's another classic commercial, by the way.
Yeah.
100%.
So,
man.
Yeah, great publicity, advertising over the years that really helped make the league what it is today. So,
NBA is good at that.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, yeah, they're great at absolutely pumping out money. I mean, honorable mention. Honorable mention, of course, goes to the Cure Auto Insurance Cade Cunningham commercials.
Oh yeah.
Some of the greatest commercials of all time. That's why I got Cure Auto Insurance.
I'll still watch that 100 times before I watch that Jalen Green commercial.
100%.
You guys got to send me this Jalen Green stuff. I got to watch it.
It's traumatizing, Troy.
Oh, I'm already on it right now, Troy.
It's absolutely traumatizing.
All right.
It really is. Like my day was ruined when I saw that. I was just like, what in God's green earth is this? But anyways, I mean, yeah, there are so many classic campaigns, so many good commercials. I think of as well, like, I mean, Kobe's had a lot of great campaigns as well with Nike. I mean, there's just, man, like we could even do one on sneaker commercials and sneaker campaigns as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the NBA has by far the most marketable stars, and with that, I think some of the most memorable moments and memorable things from that. So, but guys, this was a great episode. I appreciate you both so much, and I appreciate each and every one of you that was tuning in from home. Thank you so much for being a part of From Half Court. If you like this video, be sure you like it right down below. Be sure you subscribe to the channel as well, and be sure you share with your friends and join in the conversation down below. Also, be sure you follow my guys, Jeff at Jeff IF80, my boy Troy at Troy Sergey44, and myself at Sean Half Court. But with that, folks, that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you're subscribed